over the weekend, I interviewed a doctor, Dr. Narav Pandya. He had really interesting points. And basically what he was saying was, of course, you can't keep bringing in injury-prone players. And Niners have done a better job of that recently. But he also said there's something with the practices. Harbaugh used to have really long practices. I don't know. When you played football, did you have 3-hour practices or 90-minute practices?
3 hours practices.
3 hours. Okay, that's how it used to be. That's how Harbaugh did it. Since the new collective bargaining agreement came into effect 10 years ago, really what players want, I guess they feel in those 3-hour practices, a lot of banging heads, a lot of banging heads. So what they do is now it's 90-minute practices. There's less head banging, but there's the same amount of running that there was in the 3-hour practices. So what you're seeing is a lot of explosive exercise and a competition in a compressed time with very little recovery time. So what's the byproduct? Soft tissue injuries. When accelerating, decelerating, cutting. Yeah. It's been on the rise for 10 years. This is something that Kyle does. He has very intense short practices. One thing he could do would be to go, low and slow and easy, considering it's a long season. It's now 18 weeks and it's only June. So that's basically a fix that Kyle Shanahan could make. Do you think he'll make it? He's already said he won't change a thing about his training camp, but he often lies. He'll often say he's not doing something, but he really is. Do you think Kyle Shanahan will have an epiphany and make the change he needs to make?
Kyle is a smart guy.
He's very smart, super smart.
He is that kind of smart guy who won't admit if he is not right at the moment.
Yeah.
So I do think that he will change some things during practices, but don't think of things.
Yeah. Not wholesale changes, right?
Yeah. About half an hour more practice during a day or something like that. And he will try some things out. Maybe he will make longer practices and see how we can go with the injuries, what is going to happen, what are going to be the new tendencies for this team with the injuries. And after that, if he likes what he sees, then maybe there will be much longer practices during the season. He's a smart guy. He is an analytic mind. And I do think that there are some things which can make him change his thinking about his coaching routines.
Okay, I'm with you, man. I think he's stubborn. I think it's the word for him. He's stubborn. So I think there's like 4 characteristics at play here, and I'm going to name them. Okay, he's very smart. He's a great coordinator. There's 4 things at play here: perception, like seeing the problem. Do you see it? Decision making, what you want to do about it. Flexibility, the ability to say you were wrong and change, and then organization and planning. That's like doing the practices the right way, changing the practices the right way. So let's start with perception. We all see that there's a problem with his practices. They're too intense. We all see it. Does he? This is where it starts with Kyle. He doesn't see reality sometimes. He's very subjective. He sees what he wants to see. If we were to ask him point blank, Kyle, do you have an issue with injuries in practice? He would say, no, it's football. Am I wrong?
Nope, but
he would disagree with the whole premise.
Somehow I must disagree with you. I don't know if you remember last season, we have seen some games when Kyle tried to give the game into Jimmy's hands to make him win the game alone. And a lot of guys from the media, you and me as well, said that, Kyle, why don't you try to give some more gimmies into the hands of Jimmy? Mm-hmm. And he did that. So Kyle is the kind of a guy who is stubborn for the first time, stubborn for the second, maybe stubborn for the 50th time.
That's true.
But after that, somehow he will change and admit that you were right. He won't say that.
Good point.
He won't say that.
He won't say it. He'll just do it.
There will be a tendency when he adapts the new things, but he will adapt.
See, here's my thing with him. Like, we've already asked him about the injuries, and he's already said, like, they're not related. They're all freak injuries. One guy was warming up. One guy was standing up. One guy was playing football. What do you want me to do? It's part of the sport. So there's right there. There's a perception issue. We're saying there's a pattern and there's an issue. He's saying there's no pattern and it's just football. So right there, he's at a deficit. The second thing, decision making, like making the right decision to fix this. He's not in a position to do it because he's so stubborn. his stubbornness comes into play in the decision making. The third thing, behavioral flexibility. Again, how can he change if he's right? He's always right, Botond. He's right about this, and I'm wrong. He knows more than me. I'm wrong. He's right. So he's not going to flex. Like, I'm always coming on this show. I'll bring you on. I'll bring Vish on. I'll hear something. I'll be like, man, I hadn't thought of it that way. I'm changing my opinion. Kyle doesn't do that. He's very rigid. And it takes him, you said, it takes him like the 50th time to finally come around. And he won't even admit it. He'll be like, all right, I'm just going to draft Trey Lance and not talk about it. Okay, final thing. The organization and the planning, I mean, he could get there if he had the other three things in line. But he's never going to get to, I need to adjust my practices, because he's going to say, there's nothing wrong with my practices. I'm always right. And I'm always right. So that's the problem, man.
Yeah, that's a problem. But I'm still thinking of him as a guy who adapts new things, but it takes a lot of time for him to do that.
Yes.
And I do think that all of the genius people around the world are kind of stubborn.
Yes. Yes, and, absolutely.
Somehow it's because of that they know that they are some kind of genius during a part of his life, or
that's right.
Or part of the things that they are doing, and that's why they admit it a lot harder than they were wrong about something.
True.
And sometimes they don't even admit that they were wrong about things.
You're right.
They just change the things really slowly, that after they changed that thing, they can say that, okay, I was the one who wanted to change.
That's true. That's true. But I'm saying natural leaders are guys that take the blame on themselves.
That's
guys who say that I'm wrong. Natural leaders. And I think these four traits, perception, decision-making, flexibility, organizational, and planning, what I've been saying is these are traits that express themselves in a young adult. You got it or you don't by young adulthood. Just going from 20 to 40 or 40 to 60 doesn't necessarily make you more flexible. Doesn't necessarily make you better at organizing. My closet's a mess. It's been a mess since I was 14 years old. I'm not good at organizing. I am good at perception, though. I can watch a practice and tell you the truth. Kyle's over there in his own world, his own subjective world, where he thinks he sees things differently. That's a drawback for him. So he's always going to have a lot of money and a job in the NFL. The question is he the right? Because to me, it's not necessarily a Kyle issue, the injury thing. But if it's going to get fixed, it's going to be because of Kyle. He needs to make the decisions and the changes that put in motion the solution. And I don't know if he will, but we're laying it out for him. And as you said, he's sneaky with his flexibility. He doesn't talk about it, but it's there. We need it now. We need it. It's year 5, Kyle. And you need to do this now. You can't figure this out next year or the year after. You're having a slight issue at OTAs. Listen to Botond. He had 3-hour practices. Can you take us through the pace of a 3-hour practice? I remember him with Harbaugh. I could take you through that.
Yeah. The other thing with the leadership thing is being a leader can be an ability that you were born with. But somehow it can be learned. But for stubborn guys like Kyle Shanahan, it takes a lot of time. And I do think that we have to be patient with him, because there are certain things which he is the best.
Yes.
In which he is the
certainly
best.
I'm patient with Kyle. I'm here. We're here trying to help him, man.
And he needs a lot of help. That's why I think that they were a perfect combination with Robert Saleh, because Robert Saleh has that natural born leadership thing inside him, which Kyle lacks of. So that's why I think right now that he has to improve himself as a leader. And I think he showed some signs that he's improving as a leader. Because last year was the first season when Kyle said that there were a lot of faults. We made a lot of mistakes, and I made a lot of mistakes too.
Good for him.
It was the first time when Kyle said that during his career in the NFL.
Yep, you're right. You're right. And if he comes in this offseason at training camp and has a different training camp schedule, I'll give him nothing but praise. I really admire that he drafted Trey Lance. He made the right call on that. And I think it was tough for him. I think he had I still never forget how he acted at that Monday press conference before the draft. He seemed upset. Whatever, man. If you had to get there kicking and screaming, great. You got there. You made the right pick. That's the right call, and it was against your tendency. Now you got to get there with your training camps too. I mean, there's been at least 35 players who have gotten hurt in his practices. That's too much. That's totally preventable. I remember when Harbaugh was the coach, 2.5, 3-hour practices, they would do a lot of running plays, Botond. Hand off to Gore. Hand off to Kendall Hunter. There's not a lot of sprinting and running plays. Gore runs up the middle. Everyone comes by. They tag him. The play is over. And you go to the next play, and they ran the ball again. Kyle is doing a ton of sprinting, a ton of passing in 90 minutes. I think just go slow, go a little easier. Remember, you're trying to be healthy in January. The playoffs don't even start until mid-January now. It's a marathon. Don't get players hurt competing in June. It's a real easy fix. I think he can do it. I think he can do it. I believe in him. I believe in him. Longer practices. It's like the players will hate him. They trust him. This is what's best for us and the team. They'll say, okay, longer practices.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. You have to understand what is important for you long term, because, okay, I understand that Kyle wants his offense to be the quickest, the fastest, the strongest, and things like that. But you can't just improve these things in long term with short practices. Right. I mean, stamina and things like that are much more important than being fast periodically.
Right.
So that's what I think.
If you can make yourself, so let's say you can make your team 1% better that day in a practice, sure. But you can also make it way worse with injuries.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So chasing that 1% in June at the risk of losing Jeff Wilson Jr., Tavarius Moore, Justice School isn't worth it. You can make yourself, you're really honestly going to make your team worse than better. Like the skills that you're teaching are minuscule. And then you lose a guy and it's like, well, you beat yourself because you couldn't get your team healthy for the season.
Yeah, it's kind of like balancing yourself on the edge of a knife.
Yep.
You can do that.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. But if you fail, then it will be horrible.
Yes.
Horrible.
So I really think the Niners are in a good spot to end. I always come across as negative. What I'm trying to say is the Niners are like 3 things away. Okay.
Yeah.
Just convince Jimmy to take a pay cut. They've given him so much money. I think they should be able to do it. Get his salary down, sign 2 more players, and tweak the practices. That's so doable. It's so doable. And if they do it, they got as good of a chance as Tampa. I really think they do.
That's for sure.
So I'd like to see the Niners make like 2 or 3 more moves. They got plenty of time. It's only June. They could make moves in August. They could do the thing with Jimmy in August. So no rush, no pressure, but this is what you got to do. You're not there right now. You're not there yet.
Just consider it.
Yeah, just consider it. And if you do it, we'll take credit. You won't even have to give us credit. Don't worry.
Yeah.
All right, Botond. Thanks for letting me yell at you for the last 40 minutes. Sometimes I appreciate it, man.
It was a pleasure for me.
All right, man. Well, have a good night.
And I do think that in the past about 30 weeks, this was the most positive show we have ever done. Seriously.
I think so. It was constructive. It's not like, well, they're not as good as they think they are. This is a problem. It's like, no. They can do it. They can win the Super Bowl. They might be closer than they think, but they got to do X, Y, Z. Straight up. They got to do X, Y, Z, and they know it. Do it. So I'm glad we could help them. I feel like we earned the nickel they never pay us today.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's for sure. All right,
for
man. Sure. Go eat dinner and go to sleep or whatever. It's been a long day for you, man. I don't know if you could tell, but Botond's had a long day. Botond works hard. Yeah,
it's about 8 p.m. here. I'm tired as hell. Got a headache.
Crash.
It's really hot here in Hungary right now. So summer came in and it's 40 Celsius almost. So
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds awful.
Yeah, we are dying here right now.